Hello children, how are you doing? Are you doing good? Enjoying studying all the grammar topics? I'm sure you're doing that and revising all topics one by one. Today we are going to study a very interesting topic which would be very helpful to write in a different style, especially when you want to express in your own words, that is active and passive voice. So we have unit 17, active and passive voice. To begin with, I want you to read these two sentences very carefully. The hunter killed the lion was killed by the hunter. Think about how these two sentences are different from each other. Although the words are almost similar, but think about it. These two sentences mean the same. These are, the cat chased the rat. This is an active voice. The rat was chased by the cat. This is an passive voice. Let's understand what are these active and passive voices. In the first sentence, the cat is the subject of the verb and the rat is the object. In other words, the cat is the doer of the action. The cat is doing the action of chasing. The rat is the receiver of the action. So we see that when a sentence is changed from the active form to the passive, the object of the active verb becomes the subject of the passive verb. In the second sentence, the subject, the rat, is the receiver of the action. So here, cat was doing the action, it was the subject. And when we change this to passive, the rat, which was the object, this was the object, it got interchanged. So rat now becomes the subject and the cat becomes the object. So we see that the subject and the object in a sentence gets interchanged when we change from active voice to passive voice. In the second sentence, the subject, the rat, is the receiver of the action. When the subject of the verb is the doer of the action, the verb is said to be the active voice. Like here, in first sentence, the cat, it was the doer here, the subject. So, the verb chased is said to be in the active voice. So, both active voice and passive voice are related to the verb. Similarly, when the subject of the verb is the receiver of the action, the verb was chased is said to be in the passive voice, as we can see in this example. Now, you have a short exercise here where you may read the sentences and try to figure out if it is written in active voice or passive voice. Now there are several rules, children, for changing sentences from active voice to passive voice. So besides shifting the object to the position of the subject and vice versa, means this is the basic rule that you interchange the object and the subject, the positions, and vice versa means the opposite. There are different rules to follow while changing a sentence in the active voice to the passive voice. There are also different rules for different tenses. So let's study them in this table. Tense. When in simple present tense, we use the formula is, am or are, and it will be followed by the third form of the verb. Like, Asma writes short stories for children. This is the active voice. Change it to passive. Short stories for children are written by Asma. So we will use are. We will use are here. Are and third form of verb. So let's tally. Written is the third form of verb. Similarly, when in simple past tense, we will use was, were plus again the third form of the verb. Let's see if it's applicable in this sentence. His friend pushed him into the corner. This is the active voice. Let's change it into passive. He was pushed into the corner by his friend. So, was a word is to be used. We have used was, and third form of verb is pushed only. So, this is exactly you need to change them. Now, in simple future tense, we will use will shall plus be plus the third form of the verb. He will visit the lotus temple this year. Active voice. How do we change? The lotus temple will be visited by him this year. This is the passive voice. When your sentence is in present continuous tense, then you will use this pattern. Either is, am or are plus being and then the third form of the verb. She is writing an email to her friend. This is an active voice, right? Ask yourself why. Because here she is doing the action directly. We change to passive voice. A letter is being written by her to her friend. So we have used is being written. So is, being, and third form of verb, which is written. When we are writing in past continuous tense, then we will follow the pattern was word plus being plus third form of verb. So this is quite similar to the previous one, only the difference of past and present. He was giving a lecture. Active voice, because here he is doing the action directly. He is the doer. A lecture was being given by him. Passive voice. So was, being, third form of verb, given is the third form of verb. When your sentence is in present perfect tense, then you will have the formula either has or have plus been plus again third form of the verb. So children, knowing third form of verb is very, very essential. He has informed the police about the theft. This is an active voice because he is doing the action directly. Change it to passive. The police have been informed by him about the theft. So has, have, has, been, and third form, informed. When in past perfect tense, similar to present perfect, but here we will use had been plus third form of the verb. She had thrown away all the apples before I reached. Active voice. When in passive, all the apples have been thrown away by her before I reached. Children, I am sure you are observing the interchange of subject and object. And then future perfect tense. You will use will or shall plus have been and then the third form of the verb again. I shall have finished the work. This is active voice. And then we change to passive. The work will have been finished by me. So this is the passive voice. Now there is something very important to note here. These are kind of exceptions. The following tenses cannot be changed into passive voice. They only are to be written in active voice. These are present perfect continuous tense, past perfect continuous tense, future continuous, future perfect continuous, and sentences having intransitive verbs. What happens when we have interrogative sentences? Generally, the rule for the passive construction of interrogative sentences remains the same, though necessary changes takes place in the structure of the verb. Let's look at these examples. Now, the active voice sentence. Did Vinod give up the job? Here again the doer is the subject, although it it's a question. When changed to passive, was the job given up by Vinod? Whenever we change to passive, most of the time we have the word by. Similarly, have they bought the house? Has the house been bought by them? Here, note down that the auxiliary verbs or the helping verbs like do, does, did change into or become is, are, was, were. Have plus past participle become have, has, had, been plus past participle. So that's the addition here. We have been here. So that was all about active passive voice, certain rules that you have to learn in order to change from active to passive correctly. Do revise them, learn them, and check your understanding by attempting these exercises.